Maya's fingers trembled as an electric current seemed to surge between her and the unconscious billionaire's son sprawled on the sidewalk. What felt like chance was actually genetic destiny. Their DNA had been programmed to find each other. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and comment where in the world you're watching from. Let's go. Some decisions change the course of your entire life in an instant. For Maya Johnson, a 22-year-old pre-med student at Westlake University, that decision was stopping to help a well-dressed stranger collapsed on a sidewalk outside an exclusive nightclub. She couldn't have known that a simple act of human decency would unravel a web of lies stretching back decades, threatening one of America's most powerful families. The night had already been long for Maya. 3 consecutive shifts at the university hospital's volunteer program, followed by an emergency study session for her upcoming MCAT. By the time she left the library, the campus was quiet, streetlights casting long shadows across the deserted quad. Her shoulders ached from hunching over textbooks, and the weight of her backpack seemed to pull her toward the earth with unusual force. Just get home, shower, sleep, she murmured to herself, the mantra of exhausted students everywhere. Home was still a 20-minute walk away, her off-campus apartment a luxury she could barely afford, even split 3 ways with roommates. The shortcut past Provocation, the city's most exclusive nightclub, wasn't her usual route. The place catered to the children of privilege who treated Westlake University as their personal playground while Maya and students like her worked themselves to exhaustion for scholarships and loans. But tonight, the thought of adding 10 more minutes to her journey was unbearable. The bass from the club pulsed through the sidewalk, a heartbeat of excess and indulgence. Beautiful people in beautiful clothes lingered outside, their laughter too loud, their gestures too expansive. Maya kept her head down, walking briskly. She didn't belong in their world, and they had no interest in hers. That's when she saw him. At first, she thought he was just another drunk, sleeping it off on the cold concrete. But something about the awkward angle of his body made her medical instincts kick in. He was young, probably her age, wearing what had once been an impeccable white shirt, now rumpled and stained. A messenger bag was still strapped across his chest. "Hey," Maya called, keeping her distance. When there was no response, she moved closer, kneeling beside him. "Can you hear me?" His breathing was shallow, his pulse rapid but weak when she pressed 2 fingers against his wrist. Not alcohol, she realized with growing alarm. His pupils were pinpoints when she gently lifted one eyelid. "Call 911, she shouted to a group of onlookers who had begun to gather, their curiosity momentarily outweighing their indifference. No one moved. They just stared, some already raising phones to record whatever drama was unfolding. "Seriously?" Maya muttered, pulling out her own phone. As she dialed, she noticed an expensive watch on the young man's wrist, the kind that cost more than her entire education. On impulse, she checked his messenger bag for ID. The wallet she found contained a driver's license for Alexander Kingsley, age 23. The Kingsley name hit her like a physical force. Everyone at Westlake knew that name, the library, the science center, the athletic complex, all branded with the Kingsley family's generosity. Victor Kingsley, tech mogul and venture capitalist whose net worth was rumored to exceed $20 billion. This was his son. As she waited for the ambulance, Maya found Alexander's phone in his pocket. It was locked, but she noticed the emergency call feature. With a quick swipe, she accessed his emergency contacts. At the top of the list, Dad, Victor Kingsley. Her finger hovered over the name. The paramedics were already on their way, but something, intuition perhaps, or the serious nature of what appeared to be an overdose, made her press the call button. The phone rang only once. "Alexander?" The voice was sharp, alert despite the late hour, with the crisp diction of someone accustomed to command. "Mr. Kingsley, my name is Maya Johnson. I'm a student at Westlake. Found your son unconscious outside Provocation. I've called an ambulance, but I thought you should know. Is he breathing?" The question cut through her explanation like a blade. "Yes, but his pupils are constricted and his pulse is weak. I think it might be an overdose." There was a beat of silence, then, "I'm 20 minutes away. Tell the paramedics to take him to St. Catherine's. I'll meet you there." Before Maya could respond, the line went dead. The authority in his voice had been absolute, brooking no argument. Within minutes, the ambulance arrived, sirens splitting the night. Maya gave the paramedics what information she had, including Victor Kingsley's instructions. One of the EMTs raised an eyebrow. "St. Catherine's is 15 miles from here," his father insisted, Maya said, suddenly feeling the weight of her decision to make that call. "Well, when you're Kingsley, hospitals come to you, not the other way around," the other paramedic remarked dryly. They loaded Alexander efficiently, and Maya found herself following them, climbing into the ambulance without invitation. "I'm coming with them," she stated, with more authority than she felt. "I'm pre-med at Westlake, and I was first on the scene." The paramedics exchanged glances but didn't object. As they sped through the night, Maya kept her eyes fixed on Alexander Kingsley's face. It was a handsome face, she noticed distantly. Strong jaw, straight nose, dark brows, but waxy and still in a way that frightened her. She had seen death before during her hospital rotation. This was too close for comfort. At St. Catherine's, a team was waiting at the emergency entrance. Alexander was whisked away immediately, leaving Maya standing in the sterile white hallway, suddenly unsure of her place in this unfolding drama. She should leave, she knew. Go home, shower, sleep. She had done her duty. But something kept her rooted to the spot. Perhaps the same instinct that had made her stop in the first place. She found herself in the waiting room, her backpack at her feet, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. She didn't have to wait long. Victor Kingsley moved like a force of nature through the hospital doors. Even at this hour, in what appeared to be hastily donned casual clothes, he emanated power, tall and broad-shouldered, with silver threading his dark hair. He scanned the room with piercing eyes until they landed on Maya. He crossed to her in 3 long strides. "Maya Johnson?" She stood, suddenly conscious of her wrinkled scrubs, the ones she wore for her hospital volunteer shifts, and her hair pulled back in a messy bun. "Yes, sir. Where is he?" "They took him back immediately. No one has updated me yet." Victor nodded once, then turned to the nurse's station, where his very presence seemed to trigger a flurry of activity. Maya watched as doctors appeared, speaking to him in low, urgent tones. From their gestures and Victor's rigid posture, she gathered they were explaining the severity of Alexander's condition. She should leave now, Maya thought again. This was a family matter. She had no place here. Yet as she gathered her backpack, Victor Kingsley turned back to her. "Wait," he said, the words somewhere between a command and a request. Maya froze. Victor Kingsley's eyes were the color of steel, and just as unyielding. He studied Maya with an intensity that made her want to shrink back into the uncomfortable waiting room chair. Instead, she straightened her spine, meeting his gaze directly. "You're a medical student?" he asked, his voice quieter now, controlled. "Pre-med," Maya corrected. "Third-year undergraduate. I volunteer at the university hospital 20 hours a week." Victor nodded, as if confirming something to himself. "That explains why you recognize the symptom. Most people would have assumed he was just drunk. It wasn't hard to see the difference." Maya said, then added, "I'm sorry about your son." A muscle in Victor's jaw tightened. Before he could respond, a doctor in scrubs approached them. "Mr. Kingsley, we've stabilized Alexander. It was oxycodone, a significant amount. If he had been found even 30 minutes later, ... Single quotes, the doctor left the sentence unfinished, the implication hanging heavily in the antiseptic air. Victor's face remained impassive, but Maya saw his hands clench briefly at his side. "When can I see him? He's sedated now, but you can sit with him if you'd like. Probably won't be conscious until morning." Victor turned to Maya. "Thank you for what you did tonight. I'd like to speak with you further, but first I need to see my son." "Of course," Maya said, standing to leave. "I should go anyway. I have an early class tomorrow." "Wait here," Victor said, his tone making it clear this wasn't a request. "Please," he added, almost as an afterthought. "There's something I need to ask you." Before Maya could protest, Victor followed the doctor through the double doors, leaving her alone in the waiting room. She checked her phone, 2:17 a.m. Her first class was at 8 o'clock, and she still needed to walk home, shower, and attempt to get at least a few hours of sleep. Yet she sat back down, her curiosity overriding her exhaustion. What could Victor Kingsley possibly need to ask her? A statement for the police, perhaps? Or maybe he was worried about scandal. A billionaire's son overdosing outside a nightclub would make juicy tabloid fodder. 40 minutes passed before Victor returned, his expression even more grave. He sat in the chair beside Maya, close enough that she could smell his expensive cologne. "Alexander will recover," he said, though Maya hadn't asked. "Thanks to you. I just happened to be there," Maya said, uncomfortable with his gratitude. "Anyone would have done the same." Victor's laugh was short and humorless. "So you saw the crowd outside that club? No one was helping him until you arrived." Maya thought of the onlookers with their phones raised, recording rather than assisting. Maybe they didn't realize how serious it was. Maybe, Victor conceded, though he clearly didn't believe it. "Ms. Johnson, I'd like to offer you a position." The abrupt change of subject caught Maya off guard. "A position?" Alexander has been ... struggled. Tonight wasn't his first brush with substances, though it was certainly the most serious. He needs structure, accountability. Victor paused, choosing his words carefully. He needs someone who will notice when things are wrong. Maya stared at him, uncomprehending. "I don't understand what that has to do with me. I'm offering you a job as his companion, not a nurse or a bodyguard. He has those, though clearly they're not effective. You would simply spend time with him, encourage healthier habits, and alert me if you notice concerning behavior." The absurdity of the proposal left Maya momentarily speechless. "Miss Kingsley," she finally managed, "I'm a full-time student with 2 part-time jobs. I don't have time to babysit your adult son." If Victor was offended by her bluntness, he didn't show it. "I'm prepared to pay you $5,000 plus cover your tuition and housing for as long as you remain in the position." The figure sent a jolt through Maya's body. $5,000 a week, her entire tuition covered. It was a life-changing amount of money, enough to erase her growing student debt and support her younger brother's education as well. For a moment, she allowed herself to imagine the relief, the freedom from the constant financial pressure that had been her companion since childhood. But the rational part of her brain quickly reasserted itself. "Why me? You don't know anything about me. I know you stopped to help a stranger when others didn't. No, you recognized a medical emergency and responded appropriately. I know you're studying to be a doctor, which suggests intelligence, dedication, and a certain ethical framework. Single quotes. Victor leaned forward slightly. And I know Alexander responded to you. Responded. He was unconscious when they were putting him in the ambulance. He regained consciousness briefly. He asked for you, the girl in scrubs. He seemed ... calmer when you were near." Maya frowned, trying to recall any moment of awareness from Alexander during the ambulance ride. There had been a moment when his eyes had flickered open, focusing briefly on her face before closing again. She had attributed it to a reflexive response, not true consciousness. "Mr. Kingsley, I appreciate the offer, but I can't accept. It wouldn't be appropriate." Victor's expression didn't change. "Is it the money? I can increase it." It's not the money," Maya said, though her heart clenched at the thought of turning down such a sum. It's the whole situation. Your son needs professional help, not a college student with no training in addiction counseling. He has professionals, Victor said, a hint of frustration coloring his voice. Therapists, counselors, doctors, all of whom he refuses to engage with. I'm not asking you to be his therapist. I'm asking you to be his friend. You can't buy your son a friend, Maya said, then immediately regretted her bluntness. To her surprise, Victor didn't take offense. No, he agreed quietly. But I can create conditions where friendship might develop naturally. The money isn't for friendship, it's compensation for your time and discretion. Maya stood, gathering her backpack. I need to go home, Mr. Kingsley. It's been a long night. Victor stood as well, towering over her. From his pocket, he withdrew a business card, offering it to her. Just think about it. If you change your mind, call that number directly. It's my private line. Maya hesitated, then took the card. I won't change my mind. Perhaps not, Victor said, but Alexander will be in this hospital for at least 3 days. If you decide to visit him, the staff will let you in. Maya slipped the card into her pocket without looking at it. Goodbye, Mr. Kingsley. One more thing, Ms. Johnson, Victor called as she reached the waiting room door. When you found my son, did he say anything to you? Anything at all? The question struck Maya as odd. No, he was completely unconscious. Why? Victor's expression was unreadable. Just curious. Thank you again for what you did tonight. Outside, the night air was cool against Maya's skin. She began the long walk home, her mind replaying the bizarre encounter with Victor Kingsley. $5,000 a week. The figure kept repeating in her head, a siren song of possibility. By the time she reached her apartment, the sky was beginning to lighten with the first hint of dawn. Her roommates were still asleep, their doors firmly shut against the world. Maya moved quietly to her own room, the smallest in the apartment, but still costing more than she could comfortably afford. She emptied her pockets before collapsing onto her bed, placing Victor's business card on her nightstand. In the pale pre-dawn light, she noticed something she hadn't seen before. Handwriting on the back of the card. A single sentence written in precise angular script. He has his mother's eyes. Maya frowned, turning the card over in her hand. The statement seemed oddly personal, almost intimate. Why would Victor Kingsley write such a thing on a business card he gave to a stranger? Too exhausted to puzzle it out, Maya set the card aside and closed her eyes. But sleep eluded her, her mind filled with images of Alexander Kingsley's unconscious face, his father's penetrating gaze, and the mysterious note that seemed to contain more meaning than its simple words suggested. She didn't know it yet, but that handwritten sentence was the first thread in a tapestry of secrets that would change her life forever. Maya arrived at her 8 a.m. biochemistry lecture with burning eyes and a foggy mind. The 3 hours of sleep she'd managed had done little to refresh her. She took meticulous notes on autopilot, her thoughts repeatedly drifting back to the events of the previous night. You look like death warmed over, her friend Zoe commented as they left class. Late night? Maya hesitated. Something about her encounter with the Kingsleys felt intensely private, not to be casually shared over coffee in the crowded student center. You could say that, she replied vaguely. Well, whatever you were doing, it wasn't studying, Zoe teased. You zoned out at least 5 times during lecture. Maya managed a thin smile. Just tired. Listen, I think I'm going to skip study group tonight. I need to catch up on sleep. Your loss. We're covering renal physiology, and you know, Doctor Wilson loves putting that on exams, but Maya was already formulating a different plan. After her last class, she found herself on a bus headed towards St. Catherine's Hospital, Victor Kingsley's business card turning over and over in her fingers like a talisman. She had told herself she was going to return it, to reaffirm her rejection of his offer in person, but she knew that was a lie. She was going because she couldn't stop thinking about Alexander Kingsley's unconscious form on the sidewalk, about the strange note on the back of the card, about the mysteries that seemed to hover around this family like a fog. At the hospital's reception desk, Maya stated her name and asked to see Alexander Kingsley. To her surprise, the receptionist immediately called for an escort. Within minutes, Maya was being led through the hospital's gleaming corridors to a private wing she hadn't known existed. Mr. Kingsley said you might visit, the nurse explained as they walked. He left instructions to grant you full access. The implications of that statement, that Victor had expected her curiosity to override her better judgment, that he had prepared for her arrival, made Maya uneasy, yet she continued following the nurse, her footsteps echoing on the polished floor. Alexander's room was more like a luxury hotel suite than a hospital room. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a panoramic view of the city. Elegant furniture replaced the usual utilitarian pieces, and the hospital bed itself looked custom-made, wider and more substantial than standard issue. And there, propped up against pillows, was Alexander Kingsley. Conscious now, his complexion still pallid, but his eyes alert. Those eyes widened slightly when he saw Maya. You're the girl from last night, he said, his voice raspy but strong. The one in scrubs. Maya nodded, suddenly uncertain of what to say. She hadn't actually planned what she would do if Alexander was awake. My father said you found me. Alexander's expression was unreadable. He says I owe you my life. Anyone would have helped, Maya said, the same response she had given his father. Alexander's laugh was bitter. We both know that's not true. I saw the videos. Videos? From outside the club. Some of those vultures were filming instead of helping. It's all over social media now. Billionaire son found Odette outside exclusive club. My father's PR team is in damage control mode. Maya shifted uncomfortably. She hadn't considered the public spectacle aspect of what had happened. I didn't come here to discuss social media, she said. I just wanted to see how you were doing. Why? Alexander asked bluntly. You don't know me. The question caught Maya off guard. Why had she come? Out of concern? Curiosity? Because of Victor's strange note? I guess I feel involved now, she said finally. I found you. I called the ambulance. I called your father. At the mention of his father, something shifted in Alexander's expression. Ah, so you've met the great Victor Kingsley. What did you think? He was concerned about you. Of course he was. His heir, his legacy found Oded in public. Very embarrassing for the family brand. The bitterness in Alexander's voice was palpable. That's not fair, Maya found herself saying. He was genuinely worried about you. So worried that he immediately tried to hire you to be my keeper? Alexander's smile was knowing without warmth. Yes, he told me about his offer. $5,000 a week to babysit the addict's son. Did you take it? No, Maya said firmly. Alexander looked genuinely surprised. Why not? That's life-changing money for most people, because I'm not for sale, Maya said, then immediately regretted her harsh tone. I mean, I'm a student. I have classes, responsibilities. I'm not qualified to help someone with addiction issues. Alexander studied her for a long moment, his expression softening. I apologize. That was rude of me. And for the record, I don't have addiction issues. Single quotes. Last night was ... A mistake. A mistake that nearly killed you. Yes, well, we all have our bad days. He shifted in the bed, wincing slightly. Since you've turned down my father's generous offer, why are you here, Maya Johnson? The use of her full name startled her. How do you know my name? My father told me. He seems quite impressed with you, which is rare. Victor Kingsley doesn't impress his elite. Maya hesitated, then reached into her pocket and withdrew the business card. He gave me this. There's something written on the back that I don't understand. Alexander took the card, his brow furrowing as he read the handwritten note. He has his mother's eyes, he read aloud, then looked up at Maya, his expression suddenly guarded. What is this supposed to mean? I was hoping you could tell me. Alexander handed the card back to her, his movements careful, controlled. My mother died when I was born. I never knew her. Father rarely speaks of her. I'm sorry, Maya said genuinely. I didn't know. How could you? Alexander shrugged, but the casualness of the gesture seemed forced. Samantha Kingsley, Nee Phillips. There's a wing named after her at the Children's Hospital downtown. That's the extent of her legacy as far as I know. Maya studied Alexander's face more carefully now. His eyes were a deep, rich brown, flecked with gold around the pupils. They were beautiful eyes, expressive and intelligent despite the lingering effects of the drugs in his system. Your father must have meant something else, Maya said, tucking the card back into her pocket. It doesn't make sense otherwise. Very little about Victor. Kingsley makes sense if you don't know all the variables in the equation, Alexander said cryptically, and he never shares all the variables. Before Maya could respond, the door to the room opened. Victor Kingsley stood in the threshold, his imposing figure filling the doorway. If he was surprised to see Maya, he didn't show it. Ms. Johnson, he acknowledged with a nod. I see you've met my son properly now. We were just getting acquainted, Alexander said, a new tension evident in his voice. Maya was telling me how she heroically saved my life last night. Actually, that's not, Maya began. I need to speak with Alexander privately, Victor interrupted. Medical matters. Maya recognized the dismissal. Of course. I should be going anyway. As she gathered her bag, Victor's hand closed gently around her upper arm. But I'd still like to speak with you, he said quietly. Wait for me in the lounge down the hall. It wasn't really a question. Maya nodded, acutely aware of Alexander watching this interaction with narrowed eyes. In the deserted lounge, Maya waited nearly 40 minutes before Victor appeared. His face looked more lined than it had the night before, weariness evident in the set of his shoulders. Thank you for waiting, he said, taking the seat across from her, and for visiting Alexander. It was kind of you. How is he? Maya asked. Physically, he'll recover. The rest ... Single quotes. Victor's voice trailed off. He seemed to be weighing his next words carefully. Have you reconsidered my offer? Maya met his gaze directly. Kingsley, I came here to tell you in person that I can't accept your offer, no matter how generous. Victor nodded as if he had expected this answer. I understand, but I'd like to propose an alternative. I'm not interested in one visit, Victor said, cutting her off. Just come to our home this weekend. Meet Alexander in a normal setting. After that, if you still want nothing to do with us, I'll respect your decision completely. Why is this so important to you? Maya asked, frustration creeping into her voice. Why me? Victor was silent for a long moment, his eyes studying her face with an intensity that made her uncomfortable. Because when I look at you, he finally said, I see someone my son might actually listen to, someone who might break through the walls he's built, someone who reminds me of ... Single quotes. He stopped abruptly as if he had already said too much. Reminds you of who? Maya pressed. It doesn't matter. Victor withdrew a checkbook from his jacket pocket. One visit, this Saturday. I'll send a car for you, he wrote quickly, tore out the check, and held it out to Maya. Consider this in advance. Maya looked at the check but didn't take it. I don't want your money. It's not for you, Victor said. It's for your brother. Maya's blood ran cold. How do you know about my brother? I make it my business to know who I'm dealing with, Victor said simply. Elijah Johnson, 17. Brilliant student at Westside Public High. Applied to Westlake's engineering program for next fall. Acceptance likely, but full scholarship uncertain. The casual recitation of these personal details sent a chill down Maya's spine. You've been investigating me? Background checks are standard procedure in my world, Ms. Johnson. Victor still held out the check. This would cover his first year's tuition, regardless of scholarship outcome. Maya stared at the check, conflict raging inside her. The amount was exactly what Elijah would need. Not too much, not too little. Victor Kingsley had calculated precisely the number that would be impossible for her to refuse. Just one visit, Victor repeated softly. That's all I'm asking. Maya's hand trembled slightly as she took the check, the weight of it far greater than the paper it was printed on. One visit, she agreed, her voice barely above a whisper. And then we're done. That single quotes Victor Kingsley's smile didn't reach his eyes. We'll see. The Kingsley estate sprawled across 30 acres of meticulously landscaped grounds, a modernist mansion of glass and stone rising from the center like a crystalline mountain. Maya stared through the window of the sleek black sedan Victor had sent for her, trying to quell the anxiety that had been building since she deposited his check into her brother's college fund account. We've arrived, Ms. Johnson, the driver announced, pulling up to a circular driveway centered around a minimalist fountain. Maya stepped out of the car, clutching her simple crossbody bag like armor. She'd agonized over what to wear before settling on dark jeans, a cream blouse, and the one pair of decent leather boots she owned. Now, faced with the imposing edifice before her, she felt hopelessly underdressed. A woman in her 50s with a sleek silver bob and impeccable posture greeted Maya at the door. Ms. Johnson, welcome. I'm Mrs. Winters, the Kingsley's house manager. Mrs. Kingsley's in his study but asked that you be shown to Alexander first. He's in the solarium. Maya followed Mrs. Winters through the house, trying not to gawk at the museum-quality art on the walls or the soaring ceilings. The house was beautiful but sterile, more like a high-end hotel than a home. There were no family photos, no evidence of the people who lived here beyond their expensive taste. The solarium was a glass-enclosed space at the rear of the house, filled with tropical plants and overlooking an infinity pool that seemed to merge with the distant horizon. Alexander sat in a rattan chair, a book open on his lap, but his gaze was fixed on the view beyond. Alexander, Ms. Johnson has arrived, Mrs. Winters announced, then discreetly withdrew. Alexander turned, and Maya was struck by how different he looked from the pale, unconscious young man she'd found on the sidewalk. Dressed in casual linen pants and a fitted t-shirt, his dark hair slightly tousled, he appeared healthier, more substantial. The hollowness she'd noticed in his eyes at the hospital was still there, but less pronounced. The famous Maya Johnson, he said, closing his book and standing. Welcome to Kingsley Manor. That's what the tabloids call it anyway. It's ... Impressive, Maya said, for lack of a better word. It's a mausoleum, Alexander replied with a wry smile. Beautiful, cold, and filled with dead things. The description was so unexpected that Maya laughed, the sound breaking the tension. Alexander's smile warmed slightly in response. Please, sit, he said, gesturing to the chair opposite his. Would you like something to drink? Mrs. Winters makes a mean lemonade. Lemonade would be nice. Thank you. Alexander pressed a button on a small remote, and within minutes Mrs. Winters returned with a tray bearing 2 glasses of lemonade garnished with mint. So, Alexander said once they were alone again, you accepted my father's bribe. Maya stiffened. It wasn't a bribe. It was for my brother's education. Everything my father offers has strings attached, Alexander said, not unkind, even if they're not immediately visible. I agreed to one visit, Maya said firmly. That's all. Alexander studied her over the rim of his glass. And what exactly do you think is supposed to happen during this one visit? Maya hesitated. She'd been asking herself the same question since she agreed to come. Your father seems to think we could be ... friends. Friends, Alexander repeated as if testing the word. And what do you think? I think I don't know you, Maya said honestly. And you don't know me. Let's fix that then. Alexander set his glass down and leaned forward. Ask me anything. No holds barred. Maya considered for a moment. Why were you unconscious outside that club? The truth ... single quotes. If Alexander was surprised by her directness, he didn't show it. I was trying something new. A friend, and I use that term loosely, offered me pills. Said they were pharmaceutical grade, perfectly safe. I should have known better. Why take them at all? Alexander's gaze drifted back to the view beyond the glass. Because sometimes it's easier than being present. Being Alexander Kingsley, heir to the throne, comes with ... expectations, pressures. Sometimes I need to escape. There was a raw honesty in his voice that caught Maya off guard. She had expected denials, excuses, but not this frank admission of vulnerability. Does your father know how you feel? Victor Kingsley doesn't do feelings, Alexander said, a hint of his earlier bitterness returning. He does results, achievements, legacy. Emotions are inefficient. He seemed genuinely worried about you at the hospital. I suppose he was. The Kingsley name can't afford another scandal. Alexander turned back to her, his expression shifting to curiosity. Enough about me. Tell me about Maya Johnson. Pre-med student, Good Samaritan, reluctant visitor to billionaires' homes. Maya smiled despite herself. Not much to tell. I'm at Westlake on scholarship. I work 2 part-time jobs to cover what the scholarship doesn't. I volunteer at the hospital because it looks good on medical school applications and because I actually want to help people. And the brother my father used to lure you here, Elijah. He's 17, brilliant with computers and engineering. He got into Westlake for next year, but the scholarship picture isn't clear yet. Maya's voice softened when speaking of her brother. Our parents died when he was 10, car accident. I've been his guardian ever since. Alexander's expression sobered. I'm sorry about your parents. It was a long time ago, Maya said. though the loss still felt fresh some days. We've managed, more than managed, I'd say. Pre-med at Westlake, raising a brother, working multiple jobs. That's impressive by any standard. Maya shrugged, uncomfortable with the praise. You do what you have to do. Not everyone does, Alexander countered. Most people in your situation would have folded. Before Maya could respond, the solarium door opened and Victor Kingsley entered. He wore casual weekend attire, if designer slacks and a cashmere sweater could be considered casual but still projected. The same commanding presence she'd felt at the hospital. Maya, I'm glad you came, he said, his deep voice filling the space. I see you two are getting acquainted. Just trading life stories, Alexander said, a new tension evident in his posture. Quote, Maya was telling me how you leveraged her brother's education to get her here. Victor's expression didn't change, but Maya sensed his displeasure at Alexander's framing. I merely offered assistance where it was needed, and it brought you two together, which was the goal. Why is that the goal, father? Alexander asked, his tone deceptively light. You've never cared about my social life before. Perhaps I should have, Victor replied evenly. Your choice of companions has been ... questionable. An uncomfortable silence fell. Maya felt like she was witnessing a private battle, one fought with pointed words and loaded silences rather than raised voices. Mrs. Winters has prepared lunch on the terrace, Victor said finally. Shall we? The terrace offered a panoramic view of the surrounding countryside, the city a distant shimmer on the horizon. The table was set with elegant simplicity. The food, a Mediterranean-inspired spread, arranged with artistic precision. As they ate, Victor dominated the conversation, asking Maya about her studies, her career aspirations, her volunteer work. He listened to her responses with genuine interest, offering thoughtful comments and occasionally sharing relevant anecdotes from his own experiences. Alexander remained largely silent, watching the interaction with veiled curiosity. Maya caught him studying her several times, his expression unreadable. Maya is considering specializing in emergency medicine, Victor was saying. Perhaps you could show her your mother's medical journals, Alexander. Samantha was fascinated by trauma care. Alexander's fork clattered against his plate. What medical journals? You've never mentioned any journals before. A flicker of something. Regret? Calculation? Passed over Victor's face. They're in the library archive. I had them digitized years ago, but kept the originals. I thought I'd mention them. You didn't, Alexander said, his voice tight. 23 years, and suddenly you remember medical journals? They slipped my mind, Victor said smoothly. It happens as one gets older. What else about my mother has slipped your mind? Alexander demanded, his casual facade cracking. Victor's expression hardened. This isn't the time or place, Alexander. It never is, Alexander said, pushing back from the table. Excuse me, Maya. I need some air. He stalked off toward the gardens, leaving Maya alone with Victor. The silence stretched uncomfortably between them. I apologize for my son's behavior, Victor said finally. The subject of his mother is ... difficult. He said she died when he was born, Maya ventured carefully. Yes, complications during delivery. Victor's face was a mask. Samantha was ... extraordinary. Brilliant, compassionate, stubborn as hell. Alexander has much of her in him, though he refuses to see it. Maya thought of the note on the business card. He has his mother's eyes. Victor looked at her sharply. Yes, exactly, her eyes. He set down his napkin with deliberate care. Would you mind checking on him? He respects your space, but I think he'd welcome your company more than mine right now. Maya hesitated. Miss Kingsley, I feel like I'm being inserted into a family situation I don't understand. You're right, Victor acknowledged. I apologize for that. But I think you might be good for Alexander in ways I can't explain yet. Will you trust me a little longer? There was something in his eyes, a vulnerability that seemed at odds with his powerful persona that made Maya nod despite her reservations. She found Alexander sitting on a stone bench in a secluded corner of the gardens, his elbows on his knees, head bowed. Mind if I join you? She asked softly. Alexander looked up, his expression guarded but not unwelcoming. Sent by the concerned father? Yes, Maya admitted, sitting beside him, but I would have come anyway. Alexander's smile was small but genuine. You're honest. It's refreshing. They sat in companionable silence for a moment, the afternoon sun casting dappled shadows through the trees above. Why does my father want you in my life, Maya Johnson? Alexander asked finally. What's his endgame? I don't know, Maya said truthfully, but I'm starting to wonder the same thing. As the afternoon shadows lengthened across the Kingsley Gardens, Maya found herself drawn into Alexander's world in ways she hadn't anticipated. They walked the grounds together, their conversation flowing more naturally than either had expected. Alexander pointed out rare plants his mother had selected for the garden before her death, each detail a small treasure he'd collected about the woman he never knew. She loved Japanese maples, he said, stopping beneath a tree with delicate crimson leaves. This one was planted the year she died. It's called Ever-Red. Appropriate, don't you think? It's beautiful, Maya said, watching how the sunlight filtered through the leaves, casting a warm red glow on Alexander's face. What else do you know about her? Fragments, mostly. She was British originally, studied medicine at Oxford before meeting my father at some charity gala. They had a whirlwind romance, married within 6 months. She gave up her medical career when they moved back to the States. Alexander's fingers traced the trunk of the maple. Everything I know comes from staff who knew her. or from my father's rare, carefully curated stories. That must be frustrating, Maya said. To have so many questions, but only partial answers. Alexander looked at her with sudden intense. Exactly. It's like trying to assemble a jigsaw puzzle with most of the pieces missing. He hesitated, then added, that's why those journals my father mentioned. That matter. It's something real, something she created. Maybe you should look at them, Maya suggested gently. I intend to. Alexander's expression hardened momentarily, then softened as he looked at her. Would you come with me? To the library? Maya checked her watch. The driver wasn't scheduled to take her home for another hour. Lead the way. The Kingsley Library occupied the entire east wing of the mansion's ground floor, a two-story space lined with bookshelves and dominated by a spiral staircase leading to a mezzanine level. The room smelled of leather and paper, a scholarly sanctuary that felt more lived in than the rest of the house. My father's domain, Alexander explained, gesturing to a massive desk position to overlook the gardens. He spends more time here than anywhere else in the house. He approached a touchscreen panel on the wall, entering a code that caused a section of shelving to slide open, revealing a climate-controlled room beyond. The archive, Alexander said. Family papers, historical documents, rare books, anything Victor Kingsley deems worthy of preservation. The archive was meticulously organized, with labeled drawers and preservation-quality storage containers. Alexander moved purposefully to a terminal in the center of the room. If they've been digitized, they'll be in the system. His fingers flew over the keyboard. Samantha Kingsley, medical journal. Here he frowned at the screen. That's odd. What is it? Maya asked, moving closer. The files are encrypted. Level 1 security clearance only. Alexander looked up, his expression troubled. That's my father's personal encryption level. Why would he lock away my mother's medical journals? Maybe they contain sensitive patient information, Maya suggested, though it felt like a weak explanation even to her. Maybe. Alexander didn't sound convinced. He moved to a set of drawers along the back wall. If the digitized files are restricted, let's try the originals. Drawer labeled S. Kingsley. Personal papers slid open smoothly. Inside were several leather-bound journals, their covers worn from handling. Alexander lifted the first one with reverent care. Her handwriting, he murmured, opening to the first page. Maya watched his face as he scanned the contents, his expression shifting from curiosity to confusion. What's wrong? These aren't medical journals, he said slowly. They're research notes, some kind of genetic study she was conducting. He flipped through more pages. DNA sequencing, gene therapy protocol. This is way beyond standard medical practice, especially for the time. Maya leaned in. Her scientific curiosity piqued. The pages were filled with complex diagrams, chemical formulas, and handwritten notes in a neat, precise script. Even with her pre-med background, much of it was beyond her comprehension. Look at this, Alexander said, pointing to a notation near the bottom of one page. Project Genesis. Phase 1 trials initiated. He turned to the next page, which contained a list of test subjects identified only by initials and numbers. She was running clinical trials? For what? Maya asked. Alexander continued scanning the journal, his brow furrowed in concentration. Something to do with genetic enhancement. Targeted gene therapy to ... I'm not sure. The language gets very technical. He flipped to the final pages of the journal. The last entry is dated 3 weeks before I was born. He reached for the second journal, but before he could open it, a voice from the doorway made them both start. I see you found them after all. Single quotes. Victor Kingsley stood in the archive entrance, his expression unreadable. Alexander didn't flinch or try to hide what they were doing. These aren't medical journals, he said, holding up the book. These are research notes for some kind of genetic experiment. What was she working on, Father? Victor stepped into the room, his gaze shifting between Alexander and Maya. Your mother was ahead of her time. Her work focused on correcting genetic defects in utero, preventing hereditary diseases before birth. Why keep this hidden from me? Alexander demanded. I wasn't hiding it, Victor countered. I simply didn't think you'd understand the significance until you were older. I'm 23. And until recently, you showed zero interest in science or medicine. Victor's gaze flicked briefly to Maya. Things changed. An uncomfortable silence fell. Maya felt like an intruder in this family moment, yet sensed she was somehow central to it in ways she couldn't grasp. Her research, Alexander said finally. Was it successful? Something flickered in Victor's eyes, pride perhaps or caution. Yes and no. Her theories were revolutionary, but implementing them proved ... complicated. Did it have something to do with her death? Alexander asked, his voice quiet but intense. Victor's face closed like a shutter. I think that's enough for today. Mrs. Winters will have prepared refreshments. You're avoiding the question, Alexander pressed. Was her work related to her death? Alexander, Victor's voice took on a warning tone. There are aspects of your mother's life and death that are complex. This isn't the time or the company for such discussions. His gaze landed meaningfully on Maya, who immediately stood straighter. Probably be heading back anyway, she said, eager to extract herself from the tension. Nonsense, Victor said, his demeanor shifting suddenly to the gracious host. Join us for dinner. I've taken the liberty of calling your brother to let him know you'll be late. Maya stiffened. You called Elijah? How did you get his number? The same way I obtained yours, Victor replied smoothly. Information is my business, Miss Johnson. The casual invasion of her privacy sent a chill through Maya. Mr. Kingsley, with all due respect, I don't appreciate you contacting my brother without my permission. I meant no offense, Victor said, though he didn't sound particularly apologetic. I merely thought it would ease your mind to know he wouldn't worry. Alexander was watching this exchange with a frown. Father, you're overstepping, perhaps, Victor acknowledged, but my dinner invitation stands. There's someone I'd like Maya to meet. Who? Alexander and Maya asked simultaneously. Dr. Eleanor Chun, Victor said. She was your mother's research partner. She's in town for a conference and agreed to join us this evening. I thought it might be ... illuminating. Alexander's expression transformed, anger giving way to genuine surprise. Her research partner? You've never mentioned her before. As I said, things change. Victor turned to Maya, his gaze intent. Please stay. I think you'll find Dr. Chun quite interesting. Maya hesitated. Every instinct told her to leave, to extract herself from whatever complicated family drama she had stumbled into. Yet curiosity, and something else she couldn't quite name, held her in place. All right, she said finally. I'll stay. Alexander replaced the journal in the drawer, closing it with deliberate care. I'm going to shower and change before dinner. Maya, would you like to see the rest of the house? The offer was clearly as much for her benefit as his. A chance to escape Victor's presence temporarily. Maya nodded gratefully. As they left the archive, Victor called after them. Alexander, show her the portrait gallery. I think she might find it... Educational. Alexander led Maya through the house in silence, his earlier warmth replaced by preoccupation. Maya didn't press him, sensing he needed space to process what they'd discovered. The portrait gallery occupied a long hallway on the second floor, illuminated by recessed lighting that highlighted each painting. Most were formal portraits of stern-looking men in business attire, the Kingsley patriarchs through the generations. My illustrious ancestors, Alexander said with a hint of sarcasm. Builders of industry, pillars of society, and occasionally complete bastards. Maya smiled despite herself. Family legacies are complicated, some more than others. Alexander stopped before the final portrait in the line, a striking woman with auburn hair and a direct, intelligent gaze. Your mother, Maya said softly. It wasn't a question. Samantha Kingsley, the official portrait commissioned during her pregnancy. Alexander studied the painting with hungry eyes as if trying to commit every detail to memory. I've looked at this painting my entire life, trying to find myself in her features. Maya looked at the portrait more carefully and felt a jolt of recognition. Samantha Kingsley's eyes, deep brown with distinctive golden flecks, were identical to Alexander's. You have her eyes, Maya said. Exactly. Her eyes. Alexander's smile was sad. That's what everyone tells me. The only part of her I got to keep. The Kingsley dining room was an exercise in restrained opulence. A long table that could seat 20 comfortably. Crystal chandeliers casting a warm glow over hand-painted silk wallpaper. Maya, freshly changed into a simple black dress borrowed from the guest suite and somehow perfectly her size, felt like an actress who had wandered onto the wrong film set. Alexander had retreated into himself after their discovery in the library, responding to Maya's questions with monosyllables until she stopped asking them. He sat across from her now, nursing a glass of water, his eyes occasionally darting to the empty place setting at the head of the table where Victor would sit. I should warn you about Dr. Chun, Alexander said suddenly, breaking his silence. She's brilliant but ... intense. Very dedicated to her work. What kind of work does she do now? Maya asked. Genetic research at some private institute. I don't know much beyond that, as my father so helpfully pointed out. This is the first I'm hearing of her existence. The bitterness in his voice was unmistakable. Before Maya could respond, the dining room doors opened. Victor entered, followed by a petite Asian woman in her early 60s, Dr. Eleanor. Chun carried herself with the confident bearing of someone accustomed to commanding attention in rooms full of important people. Her silver-streaked black hair was pulled back in a severe bun, and her sharp eyes missed nothing as she surveyed the room. Those eyes landed on Maya and widened fractions, a barely perceptible reaction that nonetheless sent a ripple of unease through Maya's stomach. It was almost as if Dr. Chun recognized her, which was impossible. Alexander, Victor said, his tone carefully modulated. Allow me to introduce Dr. Eleanor Chun, former research partner of your mother and current director of the Helix Institute, Dr. Chun. My son, Alexander. Alexander stood, extending his hand with the practiced politeness of someone raised in the spotlight. A pleasure to meet you, Dr. Chun. I wish I'd known of your connection to my mother sooner. If Dr. Chun noticed the subtle rebuke directed at Victor, she gave no indication. The pleasure is mine, Alexander. You look very much like your mother. Her gaze flickered to Maya. And this must be Ems Johnson. Victor performed the introduction. Maya Johnson, a medical student at Westlake. Maya Dr. Eleanor Chun, pre-med. Maya corrected automatically, shaking the older woman's hand. It's nice to meet you, Dr. Chun. Dr. Chun's grip was firm, her scrutiny uncomfortable. Victor tells me you found his son after an incident. Yes, Maya said simply, unwilling to embarrass Alexander with details. And you recognize the symptoms of opioid overdose immediately. Impressive for an undergraduate. I volunteer at the university hospital. Maya explained. We see a lot of overdoses, Dr. Chun nodded, seemingly satisfied with this explanation, though Maya had the unsettling feeling that the woman was cataloging every detail of her appearance and responses. Dinner was served, an elaborate meal that Maya barely tasted as she navigated the complex currents of conversation. Dr. Chun spoke primarily about her current research, couching her explanations in terms that were deliberately general. We're focused on targeted gene therapy, she explained, identifying specific genetic markers that predispose individuals to certain conditions and developing treatments to address them before they manifest, like what my mother was working on, Alexander interjected. Project Genesis. Dr. Chun's chopsticks paused halfway to her mouth. Her eyes flicked to Victor, who remained impassive. Yes, she said carefully. Samantha was a pioneer in the field. Her theoretical framework was decades ahead of its time. What exactly was she trying to accomplish? Alexander pressed. Dr. Chun set down her chopsticks with deliberate precision. Your mother believed that certain genetic traits, intelligence, immune response, cellular regeneration could be enhanced through targeted intervention during fetal development, not creating designer babies as the popular press might frame it, but optimizing natural human potential. And did it work? Maya found herself asking. Dr. Chun's gaze shifted to her, that same evaluating look. There were promising preliminary results, but the research was discontinued after Samantha's death. Why? Alexander demanded. If her work was so groundbreaking, why abandon? The ethical landscape changed, Victor interjected smoothly. Regulatory bodies became more restrictive. The funding dried up. That's not the whole story, Doctor, Chun said quietly, surprising them all. Is it, Victor? An electric tension filled the room. Victor's expression remained neutral, but Maya sensed his discomfort. Perhaps this isn't the appropriate setting for a detailed scientific discussion. On the contrary, Dr. Chun replied, her voice taking on a steely quality. I think it's past time for some transparency. She turned to Alexander. Your mother died because of complications related to her own research protocol. Alexander's face drained of color. What, Eleanor? Victor warned. Dr. Chun ignored him. Samantha believed so strongly in her work that she implemented her own experimental protocol during her pregnancy with you, Alexander. The revelation hung in the air like a thunderclap. Alexander stared at Dr. Chun, then at his father, his expression a mixture of shock and dawning comprehension. She experimented on me? Before I was born? His voice was barely above a whisper. She wanted to give you every advantage, Doctor, Chun said, her tone softening slightly. The procedure was successful, but there were unanticipated complications with the delivery. Your mother's body rejected some of the modifications in the final trimester. The immune response was catastrophic. Maya watched Alexander struggle to process this information, her heart aching for him, to learn that your very existence was tied to your mother's death, that you had been an experiment. The psychological weight would be crushed. Why wasn't I told any of this? Alexander asked his father, his voice trembling with suppressed emotion. I was protecting you, Victor said, his composure finally cracking. What good would it have done for you to know? To carry that burden? It wasn't your decision to make. Alexander slammed his hand on the table, making the crystal glasses jump. She was my mother. It's my life, my body that she modified. And what modifications were those exactly? Maya asked, directing her question to Dr. Chun. Something about this story wasn't adding up. What changes did Samantha Kingsley make to her unborn son? Dr. Chun looked to Victor, who gave an almost imperceptible nod. Enhanced cognitive process, accelerated cellular repair, improved immune function. Nothing that would be visibly apparent, but significant advantages nonetheless. Is that why I never get sick? Alexander asked, a dawning realization voice. Why I can process complex information so quick? Likely yes, Doctor, Chun confirmed. Though without proper testing, it's impossible to know the full extent of the modification's effects. Alexander stood abruptly, his chair scraping against the hardwood floor. I need some air. He strode from the room without looking back. Maya half rose to follow him, but Victor gestured for her to stay. Give him a moment, he said. This is a lot to process. You should have told him years ago, Doctor, Chun said, her voice carrying a rare note of emotion. Samantha would have wanted him to know. Samantha isn't here, Victor replied sharply. I did what I thought was best, and now... Maya asked, unable to contain herself any longer. Why tell him now? Why bring me here to witness it? Victor and Dr. Chun exchanged a look that Maya couldn't decipher. It was Dr. Chun who finally answered. Because you're part of this story too, Maya Johnson, more than you realize. Maya felt a chill run down her spine. What do you mean? Your parents, Doctor, Chun said carefully. David and Esther Johnson. They worked at Westlake University Medical Center, didn't they? In the genetics department. Maya nodded slowly, her mouth suddenly dry. Yes, before they died. How did you know that? Because they were part of Project Genesis, Doctor, Chun said simply. They were colleagues, friends. The world seemed to tilt beneath Maya. That's not possible. They never mentioned anything about genetic research or knowing the Kingsleys. They wouldn't have, Victor said quietly. After what happened with Samantha, all participants were sworn to secrecy. The project was officially shut down, records sealed. Maya's mind raced, struggling to reconcile this new information with what she knew of her parents. They had been research scientists, yes, but they had never spoken of their work in detail, had never mentioned the Kingsleys or Project Genesis. "If what you're saying is true," Maya said slowly, "then why am I here? Why did you bring me into Alexander's life?" Victor leaned forward, his eyes intent on Maya's face. "Because you and Alexander share something unique, something that connects you beyond this chance encounter." "What?" Maya whispered, though a part of her already suspected the answer. "Project Genesis didn't end with Alexander, Dr. Chun said. There was a second successful implementation, a second child. The implication hung in the air between them, unspoken but unmistakable. Maya shook her head, denial rising in her throat. "No, that's not. My parents would never ... single quotes. They believed in the research, Dr. Chun said gently, just as Samantha did, just as I did. We all wanted to give our children the best possible start in life." "Our children?" Maya echoed, focusing on the pronoun. Dr. Chun's smile was sad. "Yes, Maya. My daughter was the third. The protocols were refined by that. There were no complications with her birth." Maya stood on unsteady legs. "I need to find Alexander." Neither Victor nor Dr. Chun attempted to stop her as she fled the dining room, her borrowed dress swishing around her legs. Her mind was a storm of questions and denials. It couldn't be true. Her parents were ordinary scientists. She was an ordinary girl, wasn't she? Maya found Alexander in the same secluded corner of the garden where they'd sat earlier that day. Though now the space was transformed by darkness, illuminated only by subtle landscape lighting that cast long shadows across the manicured lawn. He sat motionless on the stone bench, his silhouette rigid against the night sky. "How much did you know?" he asked without turning as Maya approached, her footsteps soft on the grass. "Nothing," Maya replied, her voice barely audible over the gentle burble of a nearby fountain. "I swear, Alexander, I had no idea about any of this before tonight." He finally looked at her, his expression haunted in the dim light. "But it makes sense to you, doesn't it? On some level, you're not surprised." Maya hesitated, then sat beside him on the bench. The stone was cold through the thin fabric of her borrowed dress. "I don't know what to think. My parents never talked about their work in detail. They said it was confidential research, but I assumed it was just standard university protocols." "And you?" Alexander asked, his gaze intense. "Did you ever feel ... different? Like you could do things other people couldn't?" Question struck a chord Maya had been avoiding. Throughout her life, there had been moments, her perfect recall of complex biochemical pathways, her ability to go days without sleep during finals week without significant impairment, the time she'd cut her hand deeply on broken glass and it had healed with barely a scar in a week. "I thought I was just lucky," she said finally. "Good genes, strong constitution, normal variation within the human spectrum." "What if we're not normal variations?" Alexander's voice had taken on an urgent quality. "What if we're deliberate ones?" The idea was simultaneously terrifying and fascinating. Maya tried to process the implications, but her mind kept circling back to one central question. Why would Victor bring us together now, after all these years? Alexander laughed, a sharp, humorless sound. "That's my father. Always playing the long game. Always 3 moves ahead." He ran a hand through his hair, the gesture betraying his agitation. "He must want something. But what? I don't know yet, but I'm going to find out." Alexander stood abruptly. "We need to see those journals again. All of them." Maya hesitated. "Your father is deliberately keeping information from us. Information about who we are, Maya." Alexander extended his hand to her. "Don't you want to know the truth? The whole truth?" She did. Despite the fear churning in her stomach, despite the voice in her head warning her that some doors once opened could never be closed again, Maya wanted answers. She took Alexander's hand, letting him pull her to her feet. They moved through the darkened house like thieves, though Alexander assured her that most of the staff had been dismissed for the evening. "Victor values his privacy," he explained as they approached the library. Only Mrs. Winters stays overnight and she has quarters on the other side of the house." The library was dark except for the faint glow of emergency exit signs. Alexander navigated the space with the confidence of familiarity, leading Maya back to the archive room. The touchscreen panel glowed softly as he entered a code. "That's not your father's code," Maya observed. Alexander's smile was grim. "I've had 23 years to learn the rhythms of this house. Victor changes his passwords regularly, but he follows patterns, dates, sequences that matter to him." The archive door slid open. Inside, Alexander went directly to the drawer containing Samantha's journals, removing all 4 volumes. "We need somewhere private to read these," he said. "My room. It's the one place in this house Victor won't enter without permission." Alexander's bedroom suite was on the 3rd floor, a spacious apartment within the mansion. Unlike the formal, impersonal spaces of the main house, this room felt lived in. Bookshelves overflowed with volumes ranging from classical literature to contemporary physics. A grand piano occupied one corner, sheet music spread across its surface. The walls featured framed photographs of landscapes rather than family portraits. "You play?" Maya asked, nodding toward the piano. "Since I was 4, another one of my natural talents." The bitterness in his voice was unmistakable. "I wonder now how much of me is really me, and how much is my mother's experiment." Maya touched his arm gently. "The genetic modifications might have given you certain capabilities, but what you choose to do with them, that's all you, Alex." He looked at her, something softening in his expression. "Thank you for that. And please, call me Alex. Only my father uses my full name." The simple request felt significant. An offering of intimacy in the midst of chaos. "Alex," she repeated, liking how the shortened name suited him better. made him seem more approachable, less a Kingsley air, and more just a young man trying to make sense of his life. They spread the journals across Alex's desk, each taking 2 volumes. Maya found herself drawn into Samantha Kingsley's brilliant mind, her elegant scientific reasoning, her methodical approach to what was, at its core, a revolutionary concept. The first journal detailed the theoretical framework, the second, the early animal trials. Maya's journal picked up with human trials, subjects referred to only by alphanumeric codes. Listen to this, Maya said, reading from an entry dated 6 years before Alex's birth. Subject GX7 continues to demonstrate enhanced cognitive abilities. Memory recall tests exceed baseline by 87%. No adverse effects observed at 24-month follow-up. Subject remains unaware of modifications. Alex looked up from his own reading. They were experimenting on people who didn't know they were being experimented on? Maya frowned, scanning further. No, wait. It says here that all adult subjects provided informed consent, but were kept blind to their specific protocol to prevent psychological bias in testing outcomes. That's marginally better, I suppose. Alex turned a page in his journal. I'm reading the entries from when she was pregnant with me. She refers to me as subject P1, her own son, and I'm a subject code. The pain in his voice made Maya pause her read. She also calls you my miracle in several margin notes, she pointed out gently. I don't think this was just cold science to her, Alex. I think she genuinely believed she was giving you a gift. Alex's expression remained troubled. A gift that killed her. They continued reading in silence. Maya was 3/4 through her journal when she found it, a passage that made her blood run cold. Alex, she said, her voice barely above a whisper, I think I found why your father brought us together. Alex moved to read over her shoulder. The passage, dated just weeks before Samantha's death, read, Theory confirmed. Subjects with complementary modifications demonstrate significant proximity effect. Cellular resonance observed between P1 and P2 samples even in vitro. If theory holds, subjects will experience enhanced stability in proximity to complementary subject. Potential applications profound. Mutual reinforcement of genetic modifications. Possible neutralization of side effects. Enhanced functionality of modified systems. V. Concerned about ethical implications. Insists no intervention until subjects reach maturity. Proximity effect? Alex questioned. What does that mean? I think, Maya said slowly, the pieces falling into place. It means we're designed to stabilize each other. Your modifications and mine, they're complementary. Being near each other somehow reinforces or stabilizes the genetic changes. Alex stepped back, running a hand through his hair. That's why I felt better in the ambulance that night, after years of self-medicating to quiet the noise in my head. One moment near you and everything ... settled. Maya thought about her own experience, how, in the past few days, despite the stress and shock, she had felt unusually focused, her mind clearer than it had been in months. Your father knew, she realized. He's been watching us our whole life, waiting for the right moment to bring us together. The night at the club wasn't an accident, Alex said, the dawning realization evident voice. I was set up. Someone gave me pills that were much stronger than advertised. I was left in a specific location, at a specific time. When I would be walking by, Maya finished, remembering how she had chosen an unusual route home that night, deterred from her regular path by unexpected construction barriers. We've been manipulated, Alex said, anger building in his voice, like chess pieces. But why now? Maya pressed. Why wait all these years? Alex returned to his journal, flipping pages with growing urgency. There must be something here. Some reason why timing was important ... single quotes. Maya continued reading her own journal, skimming ahead to the final entry. Samantha's writing became more hurried in these pages, less structured, as if she was racing against time, which Maya realized with a chill she had been. Here, she said, finding a relevant passage. Listen to this. Proximity effect exhibits age-dependent onset. Modification stabilization requires neurological maturity, estimated at 22 to 25 years depending on subject. Earlier interaction ineffective, possibly counterproductive. We're both in that age range now, Alex noted. I'm 23, and you're 22, Maya supplied. The optimal window for whatever this proximity effect is supposed to do. Alex's expression darkened. So we're what? Medication for each other? Walking, talking, genetic stabilizer? I don't know, Maya admitted. But there's something we're still missing. Your father is a businessman. There must be a practical application he's after beyond just ... making us feel better. Let me see the last journal, Alex said, the one covering the period right before her death. Maya handed it over. Alex scanned the pages rapidly, his brow furrowed in concentration. Most of this is technical data, cellular analysis, genetic sequencing results ... Single quotes. He paused, his eyes widening. Wait, this can't be right. What is it? According to these notes, the modifications she made to me, to us, they're theoretically heritable. Our children would carry these enhancements naturally, without further intervention. The implications of what they'd discovered settled over the room like a heavy fog. Alex paced the length of his bedroom, the journal still clutched in his hand, while Maya sat motionless in the desk chair, her mind racing to process what they'd learned. Heritable modifications, she repeated, the scientific impossibility of it warring with the evidence before them. That shouldn't be possible, not at the level of germ cells. Apparently my mother found a way, Alex said, his voice tight. And my father has been waiting all these years for us to reach the right age so he could... What? Breed us like prize racehorses? The crude description made Maya flinch, but she couldn't dismiss it entirely. There was a calculated precision to Victor Kingsley's actions that suggested a long-term plan, not mere scientific curiosity. There has to be more to it, she said, turning back to the journals. Something we're missing. They continued reading, the night deepening around them. Outside the windows, clouds obscured the moon, casting the gardens into darkness. Inside, Maya and Alex pieced together the fragments of Samantha Kingsley's final scientific legacy. Listen to this, Maya said, reading from one of the later entries. P1 and P2 modifications, while complementary, target different enhancement pathways. P1 prioritizes cognitive processing speed, neuroplasticity, and cellular regeneration. P2 emphasizes immune function, stress adaptation, and epigenetic stability. Together, they represent two halves of an optimal genetic profile. Two halves, Alex murmured. That's why the proximity effect works. We literally complement each other on a genetic level. But why? Maya pressed. What's the endgame? Alex continued scanning the journal, flipping pages with growing urgency. Here's something. V remains fixated on market applications. Cannot make him understand that this research transcends commercial interests. This is about the future of human potential, not quarterly profits. They disagreed on the purpose of the research, Maya noted. Sounds like it dots. I turned another page, then stopped, expression darkening. Look at this. Maya leaned in to read the passage he indicated. V has secured commitments from key investors pending proof of concept. Insists that heritable enhancements represent the ultimate market advantage, genetic superiority without the ethical concerns of direct intervention. Once P1 and P2 demonstrate stable functionality and successful transmission to offspring, Phase 2 will commence. Selective implementation in embryos of participating client family. God help us if this technology becomes merely another luxury for the privileged few. He wants to sell it, Maya whispered, the full scope of Victor's plan becoming clear. Enhanced children for those who can afford them. Designer babies without the stigma of genetic manipulation, Alex added, disgust evident in his voice, because the modifications would come naturally from the parents. A genetic elite, born rather than made. And we're the proof of concept, Maya concluded. The demonstration that it works, that the modifications are stable and heritable. Alex slammed the journal shut, his face flushed with anger. All my life, I've been his project, not his son, his investment. And now he expects me to be his breeding stock? Maya stood, placing a calming hand on his arm. Alex, we need to think clearly. If what we've discovered is true, this goes beyond just us. This technology could change human society forever. Create genetic castes based on who can afford enhancements, I know. Alex said, his voice softening as he looked at her hand on his arm. I'm sorry, it's just a lot to process. For both of us, Maya acknowledged, suddenly aware of how close they were standing. She could feel that strange resonance between them that she now understood was the proximity effect, a peculiar awareness of Alex's presence that seemed to hum just beneath her skin. Do you feel it? Alex asked quietly, as if reading her thoughts. This connection between us, is it real or is it just biology? Just complementary modifications doing what they were designed to do? The question struck at the heart of Maya's own uncertainty. She had felt drawn to Alex since that night on the sidewalk outside the club. An inexplicable concern for a stranger that had pulled her into his orbit despite all her better judgment. Was that genuine human connection, or was it genetic programming? I don't know, she admitted, but I think it's both. The modifications might create a biological resonance, but what we choose to do with that connection, that's still up to us. Alex's gaze held hers for a long, something unspoken passing between them. Then he stepped back, breaking the moment. We need to confront my father, he said decisively. Together, with all the information we have. Before Maya could respond, a soft knock sounded at the bedroom door. They froze, exchanging alarmed glances. Alex quickly gathered the journals, shoving them under the bed before calling. Who is it? It's Eleanor Chun, came the muted reply. May I speak with you both? It's important. Alex hesitated, then nodded to Maya, who moved to open the door. Dr. Chun stood in the hallway, her expression grave. She had changed from her dinner attire into more casual clothing, but her demeanor remained intensely focused. I suspected you two would be investigating further, she said without preamble, entering the room and closing the door behind her. Did you find what you were looking for in Samantha's journals? How did you? Alex began. Because I would have done the same, Doctor, Chun interrupted. And because I've been monitoring the archive room access logs remotely, Victor doesn't know you've been there. Not yet. Why are you helping us? Maya asked, suspicion evident in her voice. Dr. Chun sighed, suddenly looking every one of her 60-plus years. Because Samantha was my friend, not just my colleague. Because I've spent 23 years watching Victor corrupt her vision. And because my daughter deserves to know the truth about who she is, just as you two do. Your daughter, Maya repeated. You said she was the third successful subject. Jessica Chun, Dr. Chun confirmed. She's 22, like you, Maya. A doctoral candidate in biophysics at MIT. Brilliant, healthy, and completely unaware of her genetic enhancements. There are more of us? Alex asked, visibly stunned by this revelation. 3 successful implementations, Dr. Chun correct. You, Alex, Maya, and Jessica. There were others, but ... single quotes she trailed off, her expression pain. But what? Maya pressed. The modifications weren't always stable, Doctor, Chun admitted. Some subjects experienced cascading cellular degradation in adolescence. Others developed severe neurological complications. The success rate was lower than we had hoped. A chill ran through Maya at the clinical description of what must have been devastating outcomes for the families involved. And us? Alex asked quietly. Are we stable? Dr. Chun's gaze shifted between them. You are now. Together. That's the key that Samantha discovered too late. Complementary subjects stabilize each other. The proximity effect. Without it, the modifications eventually become unstable. That's why Victor has been watching you both, waiting for the right moment to bring you together. The club, Maya said, pieces falling into place. My finding Alex wasn't coincidence at all. No, Dr. Chun confirmed. Victor has been tracking your routines, your movements. And when he determined you were both at optimal neurological maturity, he created a scenario where you would meet. The drug given to Alex was calculated to incapacitate but not kill him. And the construction detour that changed your usual route home was arranged the same day. The level of manipulation was staggering. Maya felt violated, her entire life reduced to data points in Victor Kingsley's grand experiment. Why are you telling us this now? Alex demanded. Why not years ago? Because I was complicit, Doctor, Chun said simply. After Samantha died, I continued the research in secret. I believed in the work and its potential to eliminate genetic disease, to elevate human capability. It wasn't until Victor revealed his commercialization plans that I understood how far we had strayed from Samantha's vision. She moved closer, her voice dropping as if afraid of being overheard. Victor is hosting a presentation for potential investors tomorrow night. Private demonstration of the next evolution in human enhancement. You two are meant to be the centerpiece, living proof that genetic enhancement can be passed naturally to the next generation. And if we refuse? Maya asked. Dr. Chun's expression was grim. He won't force you, not physically, but Victor Kingsley doesn't accept failure. He'll find leverage. For you, Maya, it's your brother. For Alex, it's his inheritance and everything that comes with it. So we're trapped, Alex said bitterly. Not necessarily, Doctor, Chun replied, a hint of her scientific precision returning to her voice. There's something Victor doesn't know, something Samantha discovered in her final days, something I've kept from him all these years. She reached into her pocket and withdrew a small flash drive, offering it to Maya. This contains Samantha's final research notes. The ones that never made it into the official journals. Notes about a genetic failsafe she built into the modifications themselves. Maya held the flash drive in her palm, its weight insignificant yet somehow monumental. A failsafe? What kind of failsafe? Or a genetic circuit breaker, Doctor? Chun explained. Samantha was always concerned about unintended consequences. She built in a mechanism that could essentially switch off the modifications if necessary. Alex looked skeptical. How's that even possible? You can't just deactivate genes. Not deactivate, Doctor, Chun corrected, but you can introduce compounds that interfere with the expression of specific genetic sequences. Samantha engineered a unique receptor site within the modified gene clusters. When bound by the right compound, it triggers a cascade that temporarily suppresses the enhanced function. Temporarily? Maya asked. The suppression lasts approximately 72 hours before the modifications reassert themselves. It would need to be re-administered regularly to maintain the effect. Alex paced the room, processing this information. So this failsafe, it would make us ... normal? Functionally, yes, Doctor, Chun confirmed. Your base genetic code would remain modified, but the expressions of those modifications suppressed. Your cognitive processing would slow to typical human levels. Cellular regeneration would proceed at normal rates. And the proximity effect? Maya asked. Would that be suppressed too? Dr. Chun's expression softened with something like sympathy. Yes. The resonance between complementary subjects is one of the first functions to be inhibited. Maya felt an unexpected twist of loss at the thought. Whatever this connection between her and Alex was, manufactured or genuine, the idea of it being silenced left her feeling strangely bereft. Why would my mother build this failsafe? Alex asked, his voice tight with emotion. If she believed so strongly in her work, why create a way to undo it? Because Samantha was a scientist first and a visionary second, Dr. Chun replied. She understood that no matter how carefully designed, complex systems can have unforeseen consequences. The failsafe was her ethical safeguard, a way to protect her subjects, including her own son. If the modifications proved harmful, and has Victor known about this all along? Maya asked. No, Dr. Chun said firmly. Samantha documented the failsafe in her personal notes, not in the official research. After her death, I continued developing the compound in secret. Victor believes the modifications are permanent and irreversible. That's part of what makes them so valuable to him. Alex stopped pacing, his expression clearing as he reached a decision. This changes everything. With this failsafe, we have leverage. Exactly, Dr. Chun agreed. The flash drive contains the complete formula for the compound, along with Samantha's documentation of the failsafe mechanism. mechanism. If Victor proceeds with his plans against your wishes, you can threaten to release this information publicly. It would destroy the commercial value of the technology, Maya realized. If the enhancements can be switched off with a simple compound ... no one would pay millions for something that could be neutralized, Alex. The ultimate kill switch. There's more, Doctor, Chun said, her voice dropping lower. The compound itself isn't complex. Any competent biochemist could synthesize it given the formula, and I've already produced a sample. She reached into her pocket and withdrew a small vial containing a clear liquid, enough for 2 doses if you choose to use it. Maya stared at the vial, a strange mixture of emotions washing over her. This tiny amount of liquid represented freedom. Freedom from the genetic destiny that had been written for her before birth. Freedom from Victor's machinations. But it also represented loss of abilities she had taken for granted her entire life. Loss of the inexplicable connection she felt with Alex. Why give this to us now? Alex asked, suspicion edging his voice. Why not years ago? Because until now, the modifications were helping you, not harming you, Doctor, Chun replied. Your enhanced abilities gave you advantages in life, academic excellence, physical resilience. There was no ethical reason to suppress them. She paused, her gaze intense. But forcing you to participate in Victor's commercialization plans crosses a line. Using you as breeding stock for a new genetic aristocracy is not what Samantha intended. Alex took the vial from Dr. Chun, examining it in the dim light. And you're certain this works? You've tested it? On tissue samples from all 3 successful subjects. The suppression effect is consistent and predictable. All 3, Maya repeated. Your daughter doesn't know about any of this, does she? Dr. Chun's expression tightened with pain. No, and that's my burden to bear, just as Victor must bear his. We need a plan, Alex said, pocketing the vial and turning to Maya. The investor presentation is tomorrow night. We need to decide how to approach this. I've already taken care of part of it, Doctor, Chun interjected. I've arranged for Jessica to arrive tomorrow morning. Victor doesn't know she's coming. With all 3 successful subjects present, you'll have maximum leverage. Wait, Maya said, anxiety spiking. My brother... If Victor is willing to go to these lengths, Elijah could be in danger. Already addressed, Doctor, Chun assured her. I sent a trusted colleague to your apartment tonight to bring your brother to a secure location. He was told there was a gas leak in your building and that you had arranged for him to stay elsewhere temporarily. Maya's relief was tinged with continued worry. Thank you, but this is moving too fast. We barely understand what's happening ourselves, and now we're supposed to confront one of the most powerful men in the country? We don't have a choice, Alex said firmly. The presentation is happening tomorrow night whether we're ready or not. And after that, if Victor secures his investors... single quotes, he left the implication hanging. Maya knew he was right. They were caught in the gravitational pull of Victor Kingsley's ambition, accelerating toward a confrontation that couldn't be avoided. All right, she agreed. But we need to be smart about this. Strategic. Alex nodded, a grim determination settling over his features. Dr. Chun, can you get us everything you have on the potential investors? We need to know who we're dealing with. Already compiled, Doctor, Chun replied, producing a tablet from her bag. 12 potential investors, all billionaires with significant stakes in biotech, pharmaceuticals, or venture capital. Most have children or grandchildren. All have signed preliminary NDAs. And the presentation itself? Maya asked. What exactly is Victor planning? A 3-part demonstration, Doctor, Chun explained. First, documentation of your enhanced abilities, cognitive tests, cellular regeneration demonstrations, stress response metrics. Second, genetic analysis showing the stability of the modifications and their heritable nature. Third, ... single quotes, she hesitated. Third what? Alex pressed. Private agreement between you 2, Doctor, Chun said delicately. Not legally binding at this stage, but a commitment to ... proceed with producing the next generation of enhanced humans. Your children would be the first naturally born carriers of the enhancements. The clinical description did nothing to soften the violation it represented. Maya felt sick at the thought of her future, her body, her potential children being commodified in such a way. That's not happening, she said firmly. Not now, not ever, agreed, Alex said, his hand finding hers in a gesture of solidarity. So here's what we do. We attend the presentation, let Victor make his pitch, and then we reveal what we know. We show the investors that the technology has a fatal flaw, the failsafe. He'll be furious, Doctor, Chun warned. Victor doesn't handle public humiliation well. Good, Alex said coldly. Let him know how it feels to be manipulated. Maya squeezed Alex's hand, drawing his attention. There's something I don't understand. If the proximity effect is so crucial for stabilizing the modifications, why would your mother build in a failsafe that suppresses it? Wouldn't that potentially harm us? Dr. Chun considered the question. The proximity effect wasn't understood until late in the research. Samantha designed the failsafe before she discovered it. By the time she realized complementary subjects stabilized each other, she was already pregnant with Alex and the modifications were implemented. So the failsafe is actually dangerous to us? Alex asked. Not immediately, Dr. Chun clarified. The instabilities develop over months, not days. The 72-hour suppression window is well within safety parameters, but prolonged use of the failsafe without proximity stabilization could eventually lead to complications. Maya thought about the implications. So even with the failsafe, we're still dependent on each other in some way. We can't just walk away entirely, not without consequences consequences, Doctor, Chun confirmed. A heavy silence fell over the room as they absorbed this reality. They were connected by design, by science, by the ambitions and brilliance of people they had never truly known. Whatever choices they made now would be constrained by that fundamental truth. It's late, Doctor, Chun said eventually. You both need rest before tomorrow. I'll meet you in the morning to finalize the details. After she left, Maya and Alex remained in his room, the weight of their discoveries pressing down on them. Outside, the first hint of dawn lightened the horizon, a thin line of gray against the black night sky. I should try to sleep, Maya said, though rest seemed impossible with her mind still racing. Alex nodded but made no move toward the door. Maya, he said after a moment, his voice unusually hesitant, when you found me that night outside the club, was that really the first time you felt something? This connection between us? Maya considered the question carefully, thinking back to that moment when she'd knelt beside his unconscious form on the cold concrete. Even then, before she knew anything about genetic modifications or proximity effects, she had felt something, a pull, an inexplicable concern for a stranger that went beyond her medical training or natural empathy. I felt something, she admitted, but I don't know if it was the modifications or just the human connection. Does it matter? Alex asked softly. Does the source of the feeling change what it is? The question struck at the heart of what had been troubling Maya since their discoveries. If their connection was manufactured, a product of complementary genetic modifications rather than genuine human bonding, did that make it less real, less meaningful? I don't know, she said honestly. I just know that when I saw you lying there, I couldn't walk away. And whatever happens tomorrow, I don't regret that choice. Alex's smile was small but genuine, the first she'd seen since their world had been turned upside down. Neither do I. The Kingsley Mansion's grand ballroom had been transformed into a high-tech presentation space. Rows of plush chairs faced a sleek stage equipped with multiple large screens and state-of-the-art holographic projectors. The lighting was subdued, creating an atmosphere of exclusivity and intimacy despite the room's size. Maya stood in the wings, watching as elegantly dressed men and women filed in, the potential investors, each worth billions, each interested in the ultimate luxury good, genetically enhanced children. She wore a simple black dress provided by Mrs. Winters, her hair pulled back in a neat bun. She looked the part of the poised medical student, just as Victor had requested. Alex appeared beside her, handsome in a tailored suit, his expression a carefully constructed mask of calm. Jessica arrived 10 minutes ago, he murmured. She's with Dr. Chun in the library. Victor doesn't know yet. Maya nodded, her stomach tight with anxiety. How are you holding up? Strangely calm, Alex admitted. Maybe it's knowing we have a plan, or maybe it's just having you here. He hesitated, then added, the proximity effect at work. Maya smiled despite her nervousness. Science or not, I'm glad you're calm. One of us should be. Victor appeared at the entrance to the wings, immaculate in an expensive suit, his silver hair perfectly styled. His confidence was palpable, radiating from him like heat from a furnace. It's time, he said, his gaze moving between Maya and Alex. Are you ready? The question carried multiple layers of meaning. Ready for the presentation? Ready to fulfill the destiny he had planned for them? Ready to become the progenitors of a new genetic aristocracy? We're ready, Alex replied, his voice betraying nothing of their true intention. Victor nodded, satisfied. Good. The protocol's simple. I'll introduce the concept, present the theoretical framework, then bring you both on stage for the demonstration. Dr. Whitaker will conduct the cognitive assessments and present the genetic analysis. He paused, studying them closely. You seem composed. Did you expect otherwise? Maya asked, given the revelations of the past few days. Perhaps. Victor's piercing gaze lingered on her face. You've adapted remarkably well to learning about your origins, Miss Johnson. Your parents would have been proud. The casual mention of her parents sent a spike of anger through Maya, but she maintained her composure. I'm still processing everything, Mr. Kingsley. Today is just one step in that journey. Indeed, Victor checked his watch. 2 minutes. Take your position. As he walked away, Alex squeezed Maya's hand briefly, a silent reassurance passing between them. The presentation began precisely on schedule. Victor Kingsley, master showman, commanded the room with effortless authority. The investors watched with rapt attention as he outlined a vision of human enhancement that was both revolutionary and deeply troubling. A future where genetic advantage could be purchased, where the divide between the privileged and underprivileged would be written into DNA itself. For decades, genetic enhancement has faced two insurmountable obstacles, Victor was saying. Ethical concerns about direct genetic manipulation of embryos and regulatory frameworks that prohibit such intervention. But what if there was another way? A way to pass enhanced traits naturally from parent to child, with no laboratory intervention required? On the screens behind him, animations illustrated the concept. Genetic modifications passing naturally from one generation to the next, creating a lineage of enhanced humans. Ladies and gentlemen, after 25 years of research and development, we have achieved exactly that. Project Genesis has succeeded in creating stable, heritable genetic enhancements that confer significant advantages in cognitive function, immune response, cellular regeneration, and longevity. A murmur ran through the audience. Victor allowed it to build before continuing. But don't take my word for it. Allow me to present the proof. He gestured toward the wings. Dr. Whitaker, please join us with our subjects. Maya and Alex walked on stage, followed by a silver-haired man in a lab coat. Dr. Whitaker, another of Victor's researchers. The spotlights were blinding, the faces of the audience barely visible beyond the stage. Alexander Kingsley, my son, and Maya Johnson, a pre-med student at Westlake University. Victor introduced them, both recipients of the Genesis Protocol in utero, both demonstrating exceptional abilities throughout their lives. Dr. Whitaker will now conduct a brief demonstration of their enhanced capabilities. What followed was a clinical, almost dehumanizing display. Maya and Alex were put through a series of tests, complex mathematical problems solved in seconds. Memory recall of long sequences of random numbers, reaction time assessments that showed responses faster than typical human capability. Dr. Whitaker narrated the results with scientific precision, pointing out how they exceeded normal human parameters by significant margin. On the screens, their genetic profiles were displayed, highlighting the modified sequences and comparing them to standard human genomes. The modifications are stable, heritable, and confer no negative side effects, Dr. Whitaker concluded. Subjects have shown consistent enhancement across all targeted domains since birth. Victor stepped forward again. What you've seen represents the culmination of decades of work and billions in investment. But the true breakthrough is this. These enhancements can be passed naturally to offspring. The next generation would be born with these advantages without any additional intervention. He paused dramatically. Imagine a family legacy that includes not just wealth and education, but genetic superiority, enhanced intelligence, immunity to most diseases, extended lifespan, advantages that would compound with each generation. The investors were leaning forward now, their interest palpable. Victor had them exactly where he wanted them. Before we discuss investment opportunities, Victor continued, are there any questions about what you've seen? This was the moment. Maya stepped forward slightly, drawing attention. Actually, Mr. Kingsley, I believe there's a critical piece of information you've omitted. Victor's expression froze, his eyes narrowing almost imperceptibly. Ms. Johnson, perhaps we should address questions after the formal presentation. I think the investors deserve complete information before making any decisions, Maya countered, her voice steady despite her racing heart, particularly regarding the fail-safe mechanism built into these modifications. A ripple of confusion passed through the audience. Victor's mask slipped for a fraction of a second, genuine confusion crossing his features before the composed facade returned. There is no such mechanism, he stated firmly. Actually, there is, came a new voice from the side of the stage. Dr. Chun walked into the light, a tablet in her hand. Behind her, a young woman with striking Asian features followed. Jessica Chun, the third successful subject. Samantha Kingsley built a genetic circuit breaker into every modified sequence. When activated by a specific compound, it suppresses all enhanced functions for approximately 72 hours. The investors began murmuring among themselves. One raised his hand. Is this true, Kingsley? Can these enhancements be switched off? Victor's composure cracked further, anger seeping through. This is preposterous. Eleanor, what are you doing? Honoring Samantha's true legacy, Doctor, Chun replied calmly. She handed her tablet to Dr. Whitaker. The complete documentation of the failsafe, including the formula for the suppression compound. Any competent biochemist could synthesize it. Dr. Whitaker scanned the information, his scientific curiosity overriding his loyalty to Victor. This appears to be genuine. If accurate, it would indeed render the modifications temporarily inert. The investors' whispers grew louder. One stood up. A product that can be neutralized by a simple compound is worthless as a long-term investment. The black market for this suppression formula would emerge immediately. Another investor joined. The liability issues alone would be catastrophic. We'd be better off investing in traditional enhancement technologies. Victor watched as his carefully constructed presentation crumbled around him. The failsafe can be removed in future iterations, he insisted, desperation edging his voice. This is a minor technical detail. It's not a technical detail, Alex spoke up. It's a fundamental ethical safeguard my mother built into her work, a work you've been trying to commercialize against her original intentions. The investors were standing now, gathering their materials, exchanging troubled glances. Victor Kingsley, master manipulator, was losing his audience. In a final attempt to salvage the situation, Victor turned on Maya. Miss Johnson, may I remind you that your brother's educational future depends on your cooperation? No, it doesn't, Maya replied steadily. The check has been deposited, the acceptance secured, and any attempt to interfere with Elijah's education would be remarkably easy to document and share with these same investors. Victor's gaze darted between Maya, Alex, and Jessica, the three living embodiments of Project Genesis. united against him. For perhaps the first time in his adult life, Victor Kingsley had miscalculated. "This presentation is concluded," he announced abruptly. "My team will be in touch regarding next steps." But there would be no next steps. The investors filed out, their interest evaporated in the face of a fundamental flaw in the product being offered. In the aftermath, Victor stood alone on the stage, the screens behind him still displaying the genetic profiles of his failed investment. Maya, Alex, Jessica, and Dr. Chun gathered at the edge of the now empty ballroom. "What happens now?" Jessica asked, still processing the revelation of her own genetic modifications. "Now we decide our own futures," Alex said firmly. "Not Victor, not Project Genesis, us." Dr. Chun smiled sadly. "The proximity effect will still be a factor in your life. We'll need each other, at least periodic, to maintain stability. There are worse fates than staying connected," Maya said, her eyes meeting Alex's. Victor finally approached them, his earlier confidence replaced by a cold fury. "You've destroyed decades of work, billions in potential value. We've prevented the creation of a genetic caste system," Alex countered. "Mother would have approved." Victor looked at his son, truly looked at him, perhaps for the first time. "You're more like her than I realized. She always put principles above practicality too." "Maybe that's not such a bad thing," Maya suggested. Victor offered no response, simply turned and walked away, a diminished figure despite his wealth and power. Later that night, Maya and Alex stood in the garden where they had first truly connected, the night sky clear above them. "What now?" Maya asked. "Back to our separate lives? Occasional proximity effect maintenance visits?" Alex smiled, taking her hand. "I was thinking of something more organic, less clinical. Maybe we could start with dinner? A movie? The conventional human approach to connection." Maya laughed, the sound bright in the quiet garden. "That sounds suspiciously like dating. Is that so terrible?" Alex asked, suddenly serious. "Finding out if what's between us is more than complementary genetic modifications?" Maya thought back to that night outside the club, kneeling beside an unconscious stranger, feeling that first inexplicable pull toward him. Science explained part of it. The proximity effect, the complementary modifications, but science couldn't explain everything. "No," she said softly. "It's not terrible at all." As they walked back toward the house, Maya reflected on how a single moment of human compassion, stopping to help someone in need, had unraveled decades of secrets and changed the course of their lives forever. Whether by design or by chance, they had found each other, and now they would write their own story, free from the constraints of others' ambitions. The fail-safe vial remained in Alex's pocket untouched. Perhaps they would use it someday to experience life without their enhancements, to understand who they were beneath the modifications, or perhaps they would embrace the abilities they had been given while rejecting the destiny that had been planned. Either way, the choice was finally theirs to make.